Assalamualaikum and hello. Let's continue with our last part for this chapter 2, where we are going to focus for the last subtopics 2.3, Nomenclature of Inorganic Compound. So by the end of this subtopic, you are going to be able to define cations and anions and give the names for all those cations and anions, and also salts according to IUPAC nomenclature. So let's go first about the basic. We have atoms, but when atoms loses or accepts electrons, they are going to become ions with either positively charged ion or negatively charged ion. And the next of it, you have to know that ions are categorized into two, where we have cation and also anion. For cation, we have a type of monoatomic cation and also polyatomic cation. Same with anion, we also have monoatomic anion and also polyatomic anion. So for cation, I put it on the left hand side because cation is an ion with positivity charge. And then for anion is an ion with negative charge. So let's get to the definition. What is an ion? So ion is when an atom releases or accepts electrons, as I mentioned before. And there are two types, cation, which is it is a positively charged ion and it is formed when an atom releases electrons. Maksud releases, dia donates. Maknanya dia sangat murah hati, dia bagi elektron. While kalau saya bagi contoh pada awak, saya ada sodium. Sodium, this is Na atom, neutral. And it has 11 proton number, and due to its neutral atom, dia juga ada 11 electron number. However, bila dia adalah metal, dia ada tendency untuk donate. So, bila dia donates electrons, dia akan kurang satu elektron sebab to achieve noble gas configuration ataupun to achieve the stability, sodium atom will donate 1 electron only. So that's why proton number dia masih lagi sama, iaitu 11, but the number of electrons already decreases into 10. So itu adalah definition dan contoh for cation. How about anion? So anion is a negatively charged ion and it is formed when an atom accepts electrons. So for example, saya ada chlorine. So chlorine is a non-metal. So what we'll have, I got chlorine with proton number is 17, and due to its neutral properties, the electron number also 17. But chlorine is a non-metal with tendency to accept electrons. So what will happen, it will accept 1 electron to obtain noble gas configuration or to achieve the stability. So what will happen, proton number stays the same, but the number of electrons already changed to 18. So, untuk cation dan anion, biasanya cation usually terhasil untuk elemen yang exist as metal, usually. And for anion, usually happen for those elements in periodic table yang exist sebagai non-metal. So, how you want to identify that? I give you a tips. For example, for metal, usually dia daripada group 1 sampai group 12. So, daripada periodic table of elements, saya ada from left to group 12. Okay, bahagian kiri dan tengah tu adalah metal. And for non-metal, biasanya dekat bahagian kanan periodic table. So itu adalah a simple tips to know. Okay, next one. I want to introduce to you as well about definition for monoatomic ion and polyatomic ion. So monoatomic ion is an ion which made up from one atom only. So it contains one nucleus. However, for polyatomic ion is an ion consists of two or more atoms. So this is polyatomic ions. So, in order for you to understand more, for this part, no matter what, you have to memorize the name for all common ions that you will meet. Okay, you will see throughout the course. So, I'm giving to you from this page about the common names for monoatomic anions. For example, I got fluoride ion, chloride ion, bromide ion. So everything here is monoatomic ions, consists from one atom. And as you can see, kita ada charge dekat sini, which is negative charge. That's why it below monoatomic ions. Dan nama dia F minus originally from F atom, fluorine atom. Tapi bila dia jadi ion, dia akan berakhir menjadi fluoride ion. But make sure you put the term ion behind them. Kalau awak tertinggal, you will not get the mark for the naming of ion. Okay, I got few more examples for anion. Now we go to polyatomic anions. So I got hydroxide ion, cyanide ion, sulfate ion, nitrate, nitrite. So please bear in your mind the difference between nitrate. Nitrate is NO3 minus and nitrite is NO2 minus. So please make sure you know how to pronounce them or how to differentiate them from its formula, and of course when you're giving name for them. Next one, phosphate ion, dichromate ion, and last but not least, permanganate ion. So ini yang paling common. Sebenarnya lagi banyak, tapi Miss hanya bagi a few like this. So kalau awak rasa ini banyak, sebenarnya ini sikit sahaja. Okay, let's go to the next part for cations. So I got monoatomic cations as you see here, but please remember, or maybe you realized about this before, for transition metal, as I mentioned before, transition metal is the element that consists the position where in the middle of periodic table. For example, copper, ion. So ini adalah elemen yang berada di tengah periodic table dan dia mempunyai oxidation state. So that's why nama dia dekat tengah tu kita kena letak oxidation state based on the charge. So for example, I got Cu+, the charge is 1, positive 1. So I got the value 1 Roman dekat nama tengah dia. So nama dia akan jadi copper 1 ion. Okay, untuk Cu2+, dia akan jadi copper 2 ion. Okay, so itu adalah cara untuk tulis nama untuk transition metal sebab dia agak special berbanding dengan metal yang biasa seperti magnesium, sodium, yang ini. And then I also got polyatomic cations. For example, the common one, ammonium ion, NH4. Jangan tertukar dengan ammonia sebab ammonia adalah NH3 dan ammonia adalah compound. Ammonium ion dia adalah ion di mana dia ada charge positive 1. And then I also got here H3O+. So this is hydronium ion and usually kita guna hydronium ion ataupun H+ ion to show the acidity of many compounds. Okay, so now you've already know about the name of ion. Sekarang kita nak bagi nama for inorganic compound based on 4 rules. So kita go one by one, then Miss akan bagi contoh throughout along it. So how to do that? So let's go to rule number 1. If two identical elements combine, then the name doesn't change. So it means that when you have, for example, H2, So nama H2 adalah hydrogen molecule kerana hydrogen molecule ni made up from 2 hydrogen atoms, which is 2 identical hydrogen atoms. Sama juga case macam N2 dia akan jadi nitrogen molecule and O2 dia akan jadi oxygen molecule. Tapi as I mentioned before, to make it different from neutral atom, instead of awak tulis hydrogen sahaja, awak mesti tulis hydrogen molecule. Perkataan molecule mesti ada dekat belakang. Okay, so next one, kita go to rule number 2. When two elements join and one of them either halogen or oxygen or sulphur, so the name will be ended with metal something ide. So something ide ni depends on elements given from the question. So for example, I got magnesium plus oxygen. So maknanya yang Miss highlight warna pink tu akan bertukar jadi ide. So dia akan jadi magnesium oxide, and this case your metal is magnesium. Same for this one, I got chlorine plus sodium. When we add together, nama dia akan jadi sodium chloride. As I mentioned before, we have to put the name for metal first, barulah followed by dia punya either halogen, oxygen or sulphur. So dalam case ini saya ada chlorine, so chlorine adalah halogen. So maknanya dia akan berakhir dengan chloride. Same as when you are given the formula, how to do that? So nama formula untuk this one adalah magnesium dan S ini mewakili sebagai sulphur. Tapi bila dalam bentuk form of ion, dia akan jadi sulfide ion. Okay, so S ni sebenarnya adalah datang daripada S2 minus. Okay, so you will get there after this. Now, rule number 3, when 3 or more elements combine and 2 of them are hydrogen and oxygen, your name will be ended as metal hydroxide. So how to do that? For example, I got potassium plus hydrogen plus oxygen. So the name will be my metal at the front. So in this case, potassium is my metal and the name will be ended as hydroxide. So potassium hydroxide. Same as this one, I got calcium hydroxide, and also in terms of formula, MgOH2. So we know MgOH2, OH is defined as hydroxide ion. So that's why nama penuh dia akan jadi Mg as magnesium and OH as hydroxide. So perkataan ion tu kita tak bawa lah. Okay, so itu adalah reason kenapa Miss suruh awak hafal daripada introduction for names and formula yang common untuk anion dan cation. Reason dia dekat sini. Sebab you have to give the name for many compounds. Next one, rule number 4. This is the last rule. When 3 or more elements combine and one of them is oxygen, so awak punya naming akan jadi metal something 8. So for example, I got potassium, carbon and oxygen. So dia akan gabung jadi potassium carbonate. 8 tu mewakili oxygen. Same as here, I got nitrogen, calcium and oxygen, tapi saya akan gabungkan, letak metal dekat depan. So my potassium, my calcium dekat depan sekali, and berakhir dengan case number 2, calcium nitrate. For example, number 3, I got H2SO4. So this is common from a chemical yang awak selalu jumpa sebagai acid. So ini adalah hydrogen sulfate. And also we got magnesium plus chlorine plus oxygen. It's gonna be magnesium chlorate. So how to do this, how you want to know whether you understand or not, you have to do the exercise. So try to complete the tutorial question. So let's go to the next part where you want to give the name for inorganic salts. So just now we've learned about inorganic compound. But now, more specifically about salt. So, how salt can be happen? So, salt is when you do the neutralization between acid and base, you will form salt. And for example, I got acid, my red color solution, and I got base, my purple color solution. When I mix them together, they do the neutralization and I will get my yellow liquid salt. So next one, how to give the name. You have to know that salt is just like us as human. They are the first name and last name. And what will happen, you need to understand the first name for salt comes from metal or base. So in this chemistry course, we don't even use alkali because it's quite narrow. So we use base. Okay, so metal and base can be the first name of salt. For example, I got my base, magnesium oxide. So I will take magnesium, my metal. And then I got ammonium hydroxide. So I will take ammonium, my metal. And then I got the last name. So last name usually comes from acid. So acid yang saya ada adalah contoh sulphuric acid, the common one. I will use perkataan dekat depan dia, sulf, dia akan jadi sulfate. And then saya akan jadikan contoh lain juga. Saya ada hydrochloric acid, so it's gonna be chloride. And also nitric acid is going to be nitrate. So perkataan inilah yang kita akan gabungkan untuk membentuk nama salt. Okay, let's go for example to know best about this. So for example 1, I got potassium hydroxide. So this is my base. Reacts with sulphuric acid. And of course, dah akhir nama dia acid, dia adalah acid. So base reacts with acid. Now what will happen? From base, saya akan ambil perkataan metal saya. And then from acid, saya akan ambil perkataan sulf, dia akan jadi sulfate. So the name of my salt that form is potassium sulfate. Okay, so itu adalah the simple example to know that. Okay, let's try another one. Example 2, when a chemical formula is given, how to give the name for the salt. So, how to give the name for the salt? NH4Cl. So, ini adalah salt. Macam mana kita nak dapatkan? Kita akan split the ion inside there. So, how you want to know which one is the ion? Inilah yang memainkan peranan yang sangat penting di mana awak hafal. As I mentioned before, cation, anion yang common Miss bagi dalam page before this. So, for this part, I can identify, I got polyatomic ion, NH4+, iaitu nama dia adalah ammonium ion. And I also got monoatomic anion. Okay, dalam case ini adalah Cl-, namanya adalah chloride ion. So what is going to happen? I will choose which one is going to be my first name. So of course, my metal will be first name from ammonium ion. So my non-metal will be at the back. So full name for my salt is ammonium chloride. So kita tak bawa lah perkataan ion ni. Cuma untuk tahu nama dia, kita kena split the compound to know what are those ions that mixing together. Okay, so ini adalah case di mana awak diberikan formula. Okay, let's go to the next one about compound. Okay, compound can also be formed bila awak mix anion and cation. So your anion can be mono or polyatomic, same as cation. Okay, so for example, I got Fe. For example, I got Fe3+ and O2-. So what will happen here? Fe3+ and O2-, when I mix them together. So what will happen here? Saya akan cross. So when I cross them, Fe3 and O2, so Fe will take the charge 2 here and O will take the charge 3 here. So what will happen? Fe2O3. So this is how you want to form a chemical formula for any compounds yang terhasil daripada ion. Okay, kita cross. Biasanya darab silang lah, tapi dia bukanlah darab, dia ambil charge tu. Tapi kita tak ambil sign that charge, positive or negative tu kita tak bring together, kita just want the number. Okay, for example, what will happen, this is the chemical formula. Dan dia dihasilkan daripada Fe3 plus ion and also oxide ion. So you will get your salt, your compound here is iron 3 oxide. And as I mentioned before, ferrum ataupun iron dia adalah special sebab dia adalah transition metal. So that's why dalam nama penuh dia kena letak transition ataupun oxidation state dia. So dalam case ini charge dia 3, so oxidation state dia adalah 3. How to write it? As 3 Roman. So this is example how you want to give the name for inorganic salt as well. So I also got another last way about the combination of cation and anion. So for example, kalau dia bagi formula macam this one, I got NH42SO4. So sebenarnya kalau saya darab silang this one, so saya mix dia, saya sebenarnya ada NH4 and then saya ada SO4. And as I mentioned before, sebenarnya NH4 ni dia dapat dua nilai ni daripada SO4. So SO4 adalah charge negative, so dia akan dapat 2 minus. And how about SO4? So sebenarnya SO4 ni dia adalah 1, tapi kita tak tulis lah. So charge dia adalah positive. So that's where you use cross multiply technique. Awak reverse balik daripada chemical formula, dapatkan ion yang ada charge tu. Okay, so nama dia adalah ammonium sulfate. Same as KCl. So dalam case ini tak ada number, tapi sebenarnya dia ada 1. So kita ada K plus dan Cl minus. Dan nama dia adalah potassium chloride. And another example, copper 2 oxide. So we can know that it consists from Cu2 plus and O2 minus. Bila saya darab silang pun saya akan dapat Cu2O2. Tapi sebab saya nak make it in simplest form, that's why dia akan jadi CuO. Okay, and next example, saya ada Cu2O, copper 1 oxide, and also zinc chloride. So I hope you can understand. For giving the name, nak tak nak memang you have to memorize the name of ion and a few rules that I've already introduced to you, and also the technique to give the name. And I hope you can try to do the practice and do a lot of practices to make you familiarize with this kind of questions. And that's all for this chapter. Now for chapter 2, atoms, molecules and ions, we're done. And I'll see you for the next chapter later on.